Your soulmate is about to surprise you in the sweetest way. Here's what happened. My beloved child, don't look away just yet, because what you are about to hear may explain why your heart has been feeling strangely different lately. Have you noticed those unexpected moments of peace? Those random smiles that appeared without a reason? Those tiny flashes of hope that seemed to arrive from nowhere? They were not accidents. They were quiet signals, subtle echoes of a story that has already begun unfolding beyond what your eyes can currently see. Stay with this message for a little longer, because every sentence brings another missing piece into place, and by the end of this journey, you may understand why today's timing feels almost impossible to ignore. There are moments in life when everything appears ordinary on the outside while something extraordinary is quietly arranging itself beneath the surface. This is one of those moments. Somewhere, someone has been thinking about a conversation they never imagined having. They replay old memories. They wonder how different life might have been if certain words had been spoken sooner. Yet what surprises even them is not the past, it is the future beginning to call them forward. Perhaps you've been asking yourself why your intuition keeps whispering that change is near. Why certain songs suddenly carry deeper meaning. Why familiar places feel somehow different, as if they are preparing to witness something unforgettable. The answer may not be visible today, but invisible progress is still progress. Sometimes destiny moves with silent footsteps so that doubt cannot interrupt what hope is building. Think about the sunrise. It never argues with the darkness. It never rushes the night to leave. It simply arrives exactly when the moment is ready. Some of life's sweetest surprises follow the very same pattern. They grow quietly until the perfect second, and then everything changes faster than anyone expected. But here's the question very few people ask themselves. What if the surprise you've been waiting for is also waiting for you? That thought changes everything, doesn't it? Because we often imagine that life asks us only to wait. Yet sometimes life is waiting for us, to believe a little longer, to smile one more time, to remain open just a little while more before the next chapter finally begins. Pause for a second and remember a moment when something wonderful happened completely unexpectedly. Maybe it was a phone call. Maybe it was a chance meeting. Maybe it was a simple message that changed the direction of an ordinary day. None of those moments announced themselves beforehand. They simply appeared, almost as if the universe had been writing the script all along. This story follows that same rhythm. Not because everything is predictable, but because meaningful moments rarely arrive with loud footsteps. They arrive softly, almost unnoticed, until suddenly they become unforgettable. Now imagine another scene. Someone sits quietly, looking through old photographs, smiling at memories they once tried to forget. They aren't trapped by regret anymore. Instead, they're beginning to understand something unexpected. Every experience taught them what truly matters. Every delay shaped their appreciation. Every unanswered question slowly became a lesson rather than a burden. Without realizing it, their perspective has changed. And once perspective changes, choices begin changing too. This is where stories often become beautiful. Not through dramatic events, but through quiet decisions. One sincere thought. One unexpected realization. One gentle step toward something they once believed was impossible. The most remarkable transformations rarely happen in a single instant. They happen through invisible moments that nobody applauds. Tiny choices made behind closed doors. Honest reflections during sleepless nights. Silent promises whispered only to oneself. Those invisible moments are powerful because they cannot be interrupted by outside opinions. And someone, somewhere, may be living exactly those moments right now. You may never see those conversations. You may never witness those quiet realizations. But that does not make them any less real. Sometimes the greatest evidence of tomorrow is the peace that unexpectedly arrives today. Have you felt that peace recently? Even if it lasted only a few seconds. Even if you couldn't explain it. Never ignore those gentle shifts inside your heart. Awareness often notices change long before circumstances reveal it. Here's something even more fascinating. Life has an unusual way of preparing both sides of an unforgettable meeting without either person realizing it. While one learns patience, the other discovers courage. While one heals old disappointments, the other begins seeing new possibilities. While one wonders whether anything is changing, the other quietly becomes ready for a conversation that once felt impossible. Isn't it amazing how separate journeys can slowly move toward the same destination? The beautiful part is that neither journey looks identical. Different roads. Different lessons. Different seasons. Yet somehow, the timing begins aligning. That is why today's message isn't asking you to force anything. It isn't asking you to chase what isn't ready. Instead, it invites you to notice what is already changing inside you. Because every meaningful surprise begins long before it becomes visible. It begins with unseen preparation. Invisible confidence. Quiet expectation. A growing sense that something better is approaching, even before proof arrives. And here's the thought I want you to carry with you before this chapter ends. What if today's calm isn't the ending of your story? What if it's simply the silence before one of life's sweetest surprises finally introduces itself? Hold on to that question. Because what happens next reveals why everything you've experienced until now may have been preparing you for a moment you never saw coming. Wait until the next part, the picture is only beginning to come into focus. A quiet thought can change an entire future, and sometimes that thought begins in a heart you cannot even see. Stay with me a little longer, because this next piece may explain why certain connections never truly disappear, even after silence stretches longer than expected. What you're about to hear is not about coincidence. It is about invisible preparation, the kind that often happens before life's most unforgettable surprises finally reveal themselves. Imagine someone standing near a window as evening settles in. The world outside keeps moving as always, cars pass, conversations continue, lights begin to glow, but inside, everything feels unusually still. They are no longer distracted by noise. For the first time in a long while, they are listening to their own heart instead of the opinions around them. That quiet moment changes more than they realize. Because clarity often arrives when the world becomes silent. The questions they once ignored begin asking for honest answers. What truly matters? What deserves another chance? Which memories still bring peace instead of pain? One by one, those answers begin to reshape the future. This isn't a dramatic transformation that happens overnight. It is gentle, almost invisible. Like the first color appearing in the sky before dawn fully arrives. Most people would overlook it. Yet those small shifts become the foundation for everything that follows. Meanwhile, your own journey has been changing too. Without noticing, you've become stronger in places that once felt fragile. You respond differently. You think differently. Even your hopes carry a quieter confidence than before. Growth has a fascinating habit. It often happens so gradually that we only recognize it when we look back. And perhaps that is exactly why today's story feels different. Because this isn't about returning to who you once were. It is about becoming someone ready for what comes next. Now imagine two paths moving separately through a vast landscape. Neither path knows exactly where the other leads. There are mountains, open fields, unexpected turns, long stretches where nothing seems to happen. Yet with every step, those paths slowly begin bending toward the same horizon. No rushing. No forcing. Only perfect timing. Sometimes destiny works exactly like that. Not through shortcuts, but through meaningful distance. Distance that teaches wisdom. Distance that builds appreciation. Distance that transforms ordinary moments into extraordinary ones. Here's something few people ever realize. The sweetest surprises are rarely created at the last minute. They are prepared quietly over time. A conversation someone keeps rehearsing. A smile they imagine sharing. A plan they carefully rethink again and again. Small ideas slowly becoming courageous decisions. Every day adds another piece. Every reflection removes another doubt. Until eventually, the moment feels right. Perhaps you've sensed this without understanding why. Maybe you've caught yourself smiling unexpectedly. Maybe certain dreams have become more vivid. Maybe you've felt inspired to improve yourself without any obvious reason. Those feelings deserve your attention. Not because they predict the future, but because they reveal that your heart is becoming ready to welcome something new instead of remaining attached to old uncertainty. Readiness changes everything. Opportunities often appear to people who have quietly prepared themselves long before the opportunity became visible. That is why patience is never wasted. Every peaceful decision you make today becomes part of tomorrow's confidence. Every hopeful thought strengthens your ability to recognize joy when it arrives. Now consider this. What if someone else is experiencing the very same process at this exact moment? While you're learning trust, they're learning courage. While you're finding peace, they're discovering clarity. While you're wondering whether life is moving, they're realizing that waiting forever is no longer the answer. Separate realizations. One shared direction. Life has a remarkable way of bringing meaningful stories together only after both chapters have matured enough to continue. That timing cannot be rushed. But it can certainly be appreciated. And appreciation creates a completely different future than impatience ever could. Before we continue, if this message has brought a little peace or made you pause and reflect, consider sharing it with someone who might need these words today. I'd also love to know where you're listening from or which sentence resonated with you the most. leave it in the comments. And if stories like this help brighten your day, you're always welcome to subscribe so we can continue this journey together. Now, take one more deep breath and imagine the next scene. A simple notification. A familiar name. An unexpected smile. Not because life suddenly became magical, but because countless quiet moments finally connected into one beautiful beginning. The remarkable thing is this. When the sweetest surprises finally arrive, they rarely feel random. Instead, they feel strangely familiar. As though your heart had been preparing to recognize them long before your eyes ever could. And the next chapter uncovers why one seemingly ordinary moment is about to carry far more meaning than anyone expected. Stay close, because the story is only becoming more beautiful. Every beautiful story reaches a moment where everything finally begins to make sense, and this is that moment. Don't rush past these next few minutes, because sometimes the smallest detail becomes the one people remember for the rest of their lives. The surprise we've been quietly uncovering isn't simply about an event, it's about a transformation that neither side expected, yet both hearts have been preparing for without even realizing it. Think about how seasons change. No tree announces the exact day its leaves will become greener. No flower asks for permission before it blooms. Nature simply follows its rhythm. Life often does the same. The moments that leave the deepest imprint are rarely loud. They arrive softly, almost shyly, until suddenly you realize you're standing inside a chapter you once only imagined. Now picture someone holding a message they have rewritten countless times. Every sentence has been reconsidered. Every word has been weighed with care. Not because they fear speaking, but because they hope the moment feels genuine. That is the difference between impulse and intention. Intentions are built patiently. They grow stronger with time. And when they finally become action, they carry a sincerity that cannot be forced. Perhaps you've noticed something changing within yourself as well. You no longer feel the need to chase every answer. You have become more comfortable allowing life to unfold naturally. That quiet confidence is not accidental. It is one of the greatest signs that your perspective has matured. People often believe happiness begins when circumstances change. But the truth is far more powerful. Happiness often begins when expectation transforms into quiet trust. And once that trust appears, everything else begins flowing more naturally. Here's an interesting thought. What if the sweetest surprise isn't only what someone chooses to do? What if it's also who they've become while preparing to do it? Growth changes conversations. Growth changes timing. Growth changes outcomes. The same words spoken at the wrong time can be forgotten. Those very words spoken at the right moment can stay with someone forever. Timing gives meaning to sincerity. That is why every delay you've experienced may have been quietly protecting something beautiful instead of preventing it. Imagine walking through a peaceful garden just before sunrise. At first glance, nothing appears extraordinary. But then the first golden light touches the flowers. Colors become brighter. Details become clearer. Everything that was already there suddenly becomes visible. Life works exactly like that. Sometimes the beauty wasn't missing. The light simply hadn't reached it yet. And perhaps that is exactly what is happening now. The light is reaching places that once felt uncertain. Questions are becoming clearer. Old doubts are losing their influence. Hope is becoming easier to believe. Not because someone promised perfection, but because both journeys have quietly prepared themselves for something meaningful. There is another reason today's title matters so much. The sweetest surprises are memorable because they reflect thoughtfulness. Not extravagance. Not perfection. But genuine care. A simple gesture offered with sincerity often becomes unforgettable. A kind conversation. A heartfelt smile. An honest moment of appreciation. Those are the moments people carry in their memories for years. Never underestimate the power of authenticity. It leaves echoes long after the moment itself has passed. And here's something worth remembering. Life has an extraordinary habit of rewarding those who continue growing even while they are still waiting. Because growth ensures that when opportunities finally arrive, you recognize them. You appreciate them. You protect them. That is why every lesson you've learned has been valuable. Nothing meaningful has been wasted. Every experience has quietly shaped the person you are becoming. If these words have encouraged you or reminded you to keep believing in life's quiet possibilities, I'd love for you to become part of this growing community. Subscribe if these stories inspire you, and if this message touched your heart, share it with someone who could use a little hope today. Before we reach the final chapter, leave a comment with one word that describes how you're feeling right now. It's always inspiring to see how many different journeys come together here. Now, one final question remains. What is the surprise? Why has everything been leading toward this single moment? The answer isn't simply found in one action. It's hidden inside everything that happened before it. And in the final chapter, you'll discover why the most beautiful surprises don't just change a single day. They quietly become the beginning of an entirely new story. My beloved child, this is the moment we have been walking toward together, the final piece of the story that began with a quiet feeling, grew through unseen changes, and now arrives at a beautiful realization. Before this journey ends, stay with me until the very last sentence, because sometimes it isn't the ending that changes everything, it is the understanding you carry away with you. So, what was the sweetest surprise? It was never about one grand gesture alone. It was never about a single message, a single meeting, or a single unexpected moment. The real surprise was something much deeper. While you were wondering whether life was standing still, life was gently preparing both hearts to appreciate what they could not have fully valued before. That is why every delay had purpose. Every lesson carried meaning. Every quiet season was shaping wisdom instead of taking hope away. And when the right moment finally arrives, you realize something extraordinary. The waiting never stole your happiness. It quietly protected it until you were ready to receive it. Imagine opening a beautifully wrapped gift. For a brief second, your attention is on the ribbon. Then the wrapping. Then the box itself. But the true joy has always been inside. Life works the same way. The waiting. The uncertainty. The unexpected turns. They were only the wrapping. The greatest gift was always the person you became while moving toward this moment. Now imagine an ordinary day. Nothing unusual appears to be happening. Morning becomes afternoon. Afternoon slowly becomes evening. Then something simple happens. A thoughtful conversation. A genuine smile. A kind message arriving when it is least expected. Suddenly the entire day feels different. Not because the world changed overnight, but because one sincere moment illuminated everything around it. That is how life's sweetest surprises often arrive. Quietly. Naturally. Beautifully. They don't demand attention. They earn it. Perhaps that's why your heart has been encouraging you not to lose hope. Not because it knew every detail of tomorrow, but because it sensed that your story still had beautiful pages left to be written. Remember this whenever uncertainty visits again. Not every chapter is meant to explain itself immediately. Some chapters are written only to prepare you for the next one. And preparation is never the opposite of progress. Preparation is progress. Now think back to the beginning of this journey. You arrived with curiosity. Maybe with questions. Maybe wondering whether something meaningful was truly ahead. As we've traveled together, you've discovered that the greatest transformations rarely begin with dramatic announcements. They begin with quiet awareness. A calmer heart. A stronger perspective. A renewed willingness to believe that beautiful moments are still possible. Those changes matter. Because they shape every tomorrow that follows. Here's one final thought. What if the sweetest surprise isn't simply discovering someone who values your presence? What if it's discovering that you've become someone capable of receiving kindness without fear, appreciating sincerity without doubt, and welcoming new beginnings with confidence instead of hesitation? That transformation is priceless. It cannot be bought. It cannot be rushed. It can only be lived. And perhaps that journey has already begun. So as you move forward from this moment, carry hope without forcing outcomes. Carry patience without losing enthusiasm. Carry gratitude even before every answer becomes visible. Because the future often smiles first at those who continue walking with quiet confidence. If this story stayed with you until the very end, thank you for sharing these moments with me. If it brought peace, encouragement, or simply made you pause and reflect, I'd love for you to be part of this community by subscribing. Share this video with someone who may need a reminder that beautiful things often arrive quietly. And before you leave, write, "I choose hope," in the comments. Your words might become the encouragement someone else needs today. Until our next story. Keep your heart open. Keep your spirit curious. Keep believing that life's most meaningful moments often arrive when they are appreciated, not expected. Because sometimes, the sweetest surprise isn't waiting somewhere in the distance. It's already taking its first quiet step toward you. And when that moment arrives, you'll smile, take a deep breath, and realize the journey itself was one of the most beautiful surprises of all. Your soulmate is about to surprise you in the sweetest way. Here's what happened.